What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Saturday, November 4th, 2023, and I have another emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now, it is 10:43 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, and we currently have three nuclear war command and control planes up in the air over the eastern United States, which is pretty uncommon, especially on a weekend. So something is going on. And we currently have a hostage situation unfolding in Germany at the Hamburg airport in Germany, in Hamburg, Germany. And I've actually been to that airport before. And the Hamburg airport is used heavily for changeover flights. So apparently, after 8 p.m. local time in Hamburg, Germany, some guy broke through a security barrier with his car, drove onto the tarmac on the airport, and took two children hostage at Terminal 1. And apparently, the man is Turkish and he's already fired at police, and now Germany has deployed their special forces and anti terror units. They're already negotiating with this guy, but this is very concerning, guys. And the German special forces and anti terror units have started to clear every single plane on the tarmac and evacuate people from the planes, making sure there's no terrorists on board any of the other planes. And they're also evacuating the entire airport and securing the airport. So this is huge, guys. Okay. Hamburg Airport is like the equivalent of JFK in New York City or any other big airport in the US. It's a major airport in Germany and in Europe in general. Like I said, it's used heavily for changeover flights. If you're flying, let's say, to Eastern Europe or Northern Europe, that's where a lot of the changeover flights go. They land in Hamburg, and then from there, you go to other parts of Europe. Okay. So it's a very busy airport. It's very important to the European Union. And it's interesting that the hostage taker is Turkish. Okay. So I'll keep you guys updated on that situation, but this could be potentially some kind of jihadist attack motivated by what's going on in the Middle East. All right. So we have three nuclear war command and control planes airborne right now, and one of them flew over Michigan, and it's over Virginia right now. We have another one flying over Alabama, and then we have one doing loops off the coast of Florida, right off the coast of Fort Myers. Look at this, guys. This nuclear war command and control plane is communicating with our nuclear armed subs right now. That's why it's doing these loops, because it's deploying its trailing wire antenna. These planes have a 5 mile and 1 mile long antenna. So these antennas are just literally like a wire that is released out of the plane like a fishing reel. Okay, it's a giant spool, and they have to fly in a circle or a loop in order for that antenna to be vertical as much as possible. And then they can start transmitting emergency action messages, which are nuclear attack options, to our submerged nuclear armed submarines, the Ohio class subs. And in the event that the president needed to give launch orders to the submarines, this plane would be responsible for doing that, especially if our ground based transmitters were to get wiped out by enemy nuclear weapons. We could still transmit nuclear attack options and launch orders with these planes. Okay, so these planes are absolutely essential to our nuclear forces. All right. So something's going on, guys. To have three up in the air tonight on a Saturday night, very, very unusual, especially the one here off the coast of Florida doing these tight loops for the last few hours. Very, very concerning. Our nuclear forces are definitely on high alert for some reason. What that reason is, I have no idea. And we have another Russian military cargo plane flying to Kaliningrad right now. Okay. And I showed you guys in my last update this afternoon 3 Russian military cargo planes that went to Kaliningrad early this morning and overnight last night, which is very unusual, guys. Okay. And the last couple of days, they've been flying to Kaliningrad almost every single day. So this is very concerning, guys. Okay. It means that they're moving potentially troops, potentially weapons, potentially ammunition, potentially combat vehicles to Kaliningrad. All right. And why would they be moving all that to Kaliningrad if Russia's fighting a war in Ukraine? It wouldn't make sense for them to move stuff to Kaliningrad because Ukraine is far away. So what that tells me is that they're planning for some kind of military operation here in the Baltics, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Okay. Russia has at least 250,000 troops in Kaliningrad. They also have tactical nukes there. They also have their Baltic fleet there. They also have Iskander missiles there. And same thing in Belarus. They have probably at least 50,000 Russian forces, Russian infantry in western Belarus near the cities of Grodno and Brest. And so they could easily attack Poland from Kaliningrad and Belarus and go for Warsaw. Okay. Or they could try to close the Suwalki Gap here and cut off the Baltics from land resupply from the rest of NATO and then try to attack the Baltics themselves. I think it's very possible that Putin could order his military to attack the Baltics and Poland when the situation in the Middle East really heats up. He could try to take advantage of that while the U.S. is distracted and focused on the Middle East. He could then make his move over here. Okay, because you don't just suddenly start sending plane after plane after plane full of who knows what somewhere unless you're planning something. Okay, he's not just moving all this stuff to Kaliningrad just for the fun of it. All right, so something is going on here, and Russia also reorganized their Western military district. They broke it up into smaller military districts like they used to have 10 or 20 years ago. And during the USSR, they had smaller military districts here. They had like the St. Petersburg district, the Moscow district, and then they had like the Murmansk district up here. And then in 2010, they merged them all into one big district. But just last year, Sergei Shoigu, the defense minister of Russia, broke them up again. And a lot of experts believe that that's what you would do before launching some kind of military operation, either into the Baltics, Poland, or Finland. And we had a second B 52 airborne this afternoon. It flew from Barksdale Air Force Base, the home of Air Force Global Strike Command, up to Indianapolis. And I don't know if it landed somewhere in Indianapolis or if it shut its transponder off, but it basically disappeared just south of Indianapolis. And earlier this morning, we had a B 52 fly over Indiana and it turned off its transponder. Two B 52s in the same day, very unusual. And then we also had another nuclear war command and control plane airborne this afternoon. Okay. So we also have breaking news that the U.S. Navy aircraft carrier Dwight D. Eisenhower has been spotted in the Suez Canal. It has already transited through the Suez Canal. Here's a picture from U.S. CENTCOM. This is their Twitter account. So this is the Dwight Eisenhower passing through the Suez Canal. It's going to the Red Sea. And here's another picture. So this is from the Central Command Twitter account. So this is 100% legitimate. The Dwight Eisenhower is accompanied by the guided missile cruiser USS Philippine Sea, the guided missile destroyers USS Mason, USS Gravely, and also Carrier Wing 3 with its 9 squadrons and the Information Warfare Commander. Okay, so this thing is going to Iran. I thought it was going to stay in the Eastern Mediterranean, but it turns out the reason why this thing was hanging out in the Eastern Mediterranean the past few days is because they did a dual carrier exercise, and this is being reported by Stars and Stripes. They said that two Navy carriers and about 11,000 U.S. personnel launched aircraft and practiced missile defense during a 3-day exercise in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea, a show of strength that coincides with high level diplomacy aimed at preventing a wider war in the Middle East. The Gerald Ford and Dwight Eisenhower carrier strike groups coordinated flights between the two decks and trained on several sea operations. U.S. Naval Forces Europe Africa U.S. 6th Fleet said in a statement Friday the amphibious command ship USS Mount Whitney and the Italian Navy frigates ITS Virginio Fasson and ITS Carlo Margatini joined the drills, the Navy said. Mount Whitney is the flagship of the Italy-based U.S. 6th Fleet. In recent days, open source intelligence analysts have noted about 48 U.S. and allied warships, including those from standing NATO Maritime Group 2, are now operating in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East, okay? 48 U.S. and allied warships, guys. That is insane. And like I've said before, that's the most amount of warships we've had in the Middle East and in the Mediterranean since 1945, all right? And Israel has called up all of their reserves. They've never done that in their entire history as a nation. And the Gerald Ford Carrier Strike Group includes Carrier Wing 8 and the destroyers USS Ramage, USS Bulkley, and USS Paul Ignatius, as well as the cruiser USS Normandy, and the Carrier Wing 3 with its 9 squadrons is deployed with the Eisenhower. So a lot of firepower, guys. And we have breaking news that there's been more attacks on American bases tonight in Syria. The Sadati U.S. military base in Syria, and also another base near the Conoco gas field in the Deir Azor region of Syria. Both have been targeted tonight. Local reports of explosions and sirens heard at the base. And Iran has issued a NOTAM for part of the northern areas of the Isfahan province from November 5th to November 6th, which is tomorrow and Monday, due to a missile test. Okay, so Iran is going to do some kind of a missile test in the Isfahan province, and they've issued a NOTAM, a notice to airmen. So that's very concerning. And the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken warned Saturday that declaring a ceasefire in the fight between Israel and Hamas now not only runs the risk of failing to eradicate Hamas, but would allow them to regroup and try to attack Israel again. That was reported by the Wall Street Journal. So it's pretty interesting how the administration here in the U.S. keeps flip-flopping back and forth. 1 minute they're pushing the ceasefire agenda. The next minute they're saying, no, a ceasefire is bad. And they're just going back and forth, back and forth. It's really bizarre how they're basically trying to like play both sides. They want to seem like they're pro-Israel, but then they want to seem like they're also pro-Gaza. And you can't do that. You have to pick a side. Are you on Gaza side or are you on Israel's side? And it seems like the Democrats, the Biden administration, they want to be seen as pro-Israel, but then they also want to cater to some of the pro-Gaza, pro-Palestine segments of their base. And so they don't want to seem too pro-Israel because then they're going to alienate the pro-Gaza people. So they want to be pro-Israel, but also pro-Gaza. It's all politics, guys. It's all about re-election. It's all about, keeping your base happy. Unfortunately, that's what I think is going on here, okay? So that's pretty much the latest information that I have. I'll keep you guys updated. I will be doing another update tomorrow during the day, probably another update tomorrow evening as well, because there's just so much news coming in. But that's the latest information that I have, guys. 3 nuclear war command and control planes airborne right now. One airborne in the afternoon. That's a total of 4 airborne today over the United States. 2 B-52 nuclear bombers over the U.S. and the Dwight Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group passing through the Suez Canal on its way to Iran. I think once the Eisenhower gets in position close to Iran, that's when you're going to see Israel really step up its operations in Gaza, and we could potentially see an attack on Iran by Israel and the United States, especially once Israel finishes their Gaza mission. They may go after Iran because the U.S. House of Representatives already passed a resolution almost unanimously, 350 to 53. Okay, only 53 were against it out of like what, 420 or whatever. That's insane. Okay, and this resolution was basically a soft declaration of war on Iran. It basically says that the U.S. will not accept a nuclear armed Iran, and that the U.S. will do anything necessary to prevent that from happening, and also authorizes U.S. allies like Israel to do whatever they need to do to stop it from happening as well. Okay, so remember a couple of months ago when there were a bunch of B-52s that were seen flying over Long Island, and they flew all the way across the ocean to Iran, or not to Iran, but to the Middle East, and then they turned around and came back. What do you think that was, guys? Obviously, they were practicing a strike on Iran. Okay, the B-52s can carry air-launched cruise missiles that have a range of 2,000 miles, and those air-launched cruise missiles have the W-80 nuclear warhead attached, which has a blast yield of like 200 kilotons, I believe, or 150 kilotons, and they're super accurate. So that's one weapon we would use if we were trying to destroy all those bunkers that Iran has in the mountains over there, because Iran is very mountainous, so they have a lot of bunkers under those mountains. It's a huge country. So you would have to go nuclear if you wanted to decapitate the Iranian nuclear program, because fighter jets are going to, have to deal with all of the air defenses that Iran has set up. So fighter jets alone are not enough. They would have to take out the air defenses first, and then they could go in with fighter jets. But the fighter jets, unless they're carrying like the B-61 nuclear gravity bombs, uh, they just don't have the ordnance, the power needed to take out entire bunkers. The only way to do that is with uh, earth penetrating warheads, okay, which the U.S. has a lot of those. So get prepared, guys. Okay, things are going to continue to escalate, and I will update you on the situation. And when things really get crazy, I will go live 24/7. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the bell icon below so you get notified when I post these updates and when I go live. And other than that, thanks for all your support. Thanks for all your comments. I really appreciate it. And I want to say thank you to someone named Annette. Thank you, Annette, for your support. I really appreciate it. So take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.